Hey guys, Marcingan here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so one of the big things that we are waiting on in the community right now is any news about the Golden Week celebration, which should be starting sometime within the next... I mean, if we look back at the date over the last few years, it's actually anything between like sort of 4 and 5 and then like 9 days, depending on when exactly the start date falls in Japan. Golden Week is actually obviously it's the name of the celebration in the game, but it is actually a celebration in Japan, which is where the name comes from. It's basically a week where there are like multiple holidays all in the same sort of short span of time, right? Like over here we call them bank holidays. I don't know what they call them in the US, just holiday days, I guess. But there's multiple days basically between the 29th of April and the 5th of May, where there's essentially like 4 days that are officially designated public holidays. So a lot of people then will just take like the other odd day or something that they have where they should be working off, and it's just like a big holiday period in Japan. So Dokkan has always had some kind of representation for Golden Week in the game, although it has not always been the same thing that it is now, right? Obviously now what we're used to, if you're a current player, you've been playing the game for the last like even sort of like, you know, 2 years, you know Golden Week as this big celebration that comes out towards the end of April with a dual Dokkan Fest banner. So that's what we're currently waiting for, to get any sort of hint about the theme. I'm going to do a video talking about when we could potentially see the earliest teaser, because last year we got one of those sort of like cryptic clues where they just posted a weird image. It was like a sphere with an arrow going through it. And obviously that was meant to be the Super Saiyan 3 Goku Kamehameha shooting through Fat Buu, which, as always with those cryptic clue things, normally I see them when I first woken up in the morning, so I take one look at them and I'm just sat there scratching my head. But by the time I've looked, like, they've been posted at 3 AM my time, so people have already put comments and multiple people have already correctly guessed what it's going to be amongst the wild speculation. But I thought it'd be fun for this video to go back and take a look at the history of Golden Week, all the units that have come out for Golden Week over the years, and actually what was kind of fun when getting these all up and putting these together, there's actually a couple of units that I had forgotten technically were Golden Week units, because obviously we are synced now in terms of the release schedule, and Golden Week itself actually became a same time celebration a few years ago. And then of course before that the characters would come out in April on JP and then come out a lot later in the year for Global. And some of those characters, you know, I was playing when they came out on Global and had completely forgotten that they were technically Golden Week characters for JP. So we're going to jump in and take a look. Let me know when you guys started playing the game, what was the first Golden Week celebration that you were playing. Do hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's go and take a look at the history of Golden Week in Dokkan. So year one, obviously the game hadn't been out super long, because of course we know the anniversary is in February, so the game released in February, and then a couple of months later was the very first Golden Week. In fact, I believe this was, yeah, it was after the first anniversary. So you can see here there's a list of the celebration stuff. There weren't many Dokkan Fest exclusives in the game, so you can see here Dokkan Festival Held is number 3. Number 3, there was a banner that had, I guess, STR Super Gogeta, STR Broly, and Physical Full Power Frieza. And that was like the big banner for that celebration, right? There were very few Dokkan Fest exclusives available at the time. As far as I'm aware, like none of these characters were brand new for this banner. So this was obviously the very first iteration of Golden Week. No new unit specifically for this celebration. And that was, I believe, was, yeah, 2016, right? Because we are... it was after. I guess that means there wasn't a Golden Week at the very first year, because this is the first one I could find on the wiki. Because obviously this was after the first anniversary, because that's when STR Gogeta came out. So the very first Golden Week would literally have been 2 or 3 months after the game first released. But I couldn't find any information on the wiki about whether they actually did anything in-game specifically for it. So that would have been, what, 2016? So then we moved on to 2017. And again, this is one of the first ones. I remember summoning for these guys when they came out on Global. But yeah, the 2017 Golden Week was in the 120 lead meta, and we got the Extreme STR lead Super Janemba and the Super Int lead Super Gogeta. And now you can see here, when you look at the JP to Global, the Golden Week characters that come out April for the JP version would often not come out all the way until November for Global. And obviously at this point it was kind of a sticking, like some of the characters it wasn't so bad, but some of these characters had lost a lot of their hype and potentially even a lot of their, like, I don't want to say relevancy, because obviously with Global still being roughly 6 months behind pretty much at all times, these quite a few years ago, it's not like we then had stuff like we have now, right, where there'd been a random worldwide, like, you know, same time celebration in the middle with some massive power creep events, and then these units come out and they're just not good. Like the example with like full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, right, where he released on Global the Int LR after the worldwide celebration and was basically like power crept by the worldwide celebration content, whereas on JP he came out way before and had a lot more time to be like a relevant, like, top tier unit, right? Whereas back then, because everything was so far behind, that didn't really happen all that much. But yeah, these guys on release were really good. Obviously Int Gogeta, I mean, Gogetas have always come out and been very, very good. It wasn't the same kind of like game-breaking dominance as the original STR one, but this Int Gogeta was very good, and the STR Janemba very, very good as well. So then we skip ahead to 2018, and these are units that I'm not sure if they even came out as a dual Dokkan Fest on Global. Maybe they did and I just can't remember, but I'd completely forgotten that they'd even released at the same time. But we have the AGL Blue Vegeta that transforms into Blue Evolution, and the STR Jiren. These guys actually came out, yeah, the 26th of April, 2018. They did come out at the same time on Global, 26th of October, so a little bit earlier than the previous year. I do not remember this release at all. I'm fairly sure I pulled the Blue Vegeta on release. I'm not even sure. I know I wasn't... Was I making content back then? No, I was, because I was making it around the 120 lead meta. So I remember, yeah, I did a summon video for Int Gogeta and STR Janemba. I remember pulling this guy. I can't remember if I even summoned for Jiren. But yeah, AGL Blue Evolution Vegeta and STR Jiren were the 2018 Golden Week characters. Very odd choice when you think about it now for like a dual Dokkan Fest for Golden Week. These guys, I mean, at the time of their release, were pretty good. Obviously, like a lot of events, you could still stun the boss. So Jiren being able to stun the enemies. I think Super Battle Road had released by then. So obviously a character that has a chance to stun all enemies is obviously very good. And then Vegeta had a bunch of additionals. They were only normals, right, before he got an Easy A. And then I remember this, his 30% chance to evolve starting from the 4th turn when he first came out. So you could have runs with this guy where he would just never transform. And then, of course, when he got his Easy A, it went up to 40%, which is not exactly crazy. But yeah, it's weird to think. Let me know if you were playing when these guys came out. But yeah, I'd completely forgotten that these guys were a Golden Week release, right? And then the next year for 2019, we got the Tech Trunks and the AGL Zamasu. Now, remember these guys actually being really hype. This guy released around the time, I think it was just after they released the Legendary Goku event, which at the time had then become like the longest, like, one running event, was probably the hardest event in the game. And then they brought out this guy, who of course transforms and becomes an infinite stacking unit, and so he was one of the best units in the game for that event in particular. And then of course he had the sub lead for super class. Zamasu had the sub lead for extreme class. So these guys were really good, really fun. Obviously Zamasu, even on his original release, leading an extreme team, having the damage reduction, like, these guys were both just really, really good on release. And I remember when they came out on Global, they were still quite hype. The banners were fairly decent. So yeah, these guys were a very successful release as far as I can remember. Let me know if you guys were playing when these guys dropped. But yeah, 2019, they came out in November for Global. And then we move on to, this is one of the ones I think where Global felt the sting, I think, the worst. This was the Int Gotenks that transforms into Super Saiyan and then into Super Saiyan 3. And then, of course, the Tech Exchange Boo with the starting off as the Good Boo, transforming into Evil Boo, and then Super Boo. These guys were really good on release. I remember at the time, like, being, I think, a bit more of a fan of the Gotenks than other people were at the time. But these guys came out in November, and I'm not sure if there was something that had come out before this on Global, but I remember these guys just had very little hype when they dropped on Global. I'm not sure if something had come out either same time in between or a Global first or something, but just these guys, when they dropped, they were already nowhere near as good as they were. Like when they released on JP, they didn't exactly come out as like the 2 best TURs in the game from what I remember, but let's imagine, if you imagine their placements on like a top 10 list, by the time they came out on Global, they would have dropped significantly from where they originally would have been when they come out on JP. So I remember people being quite disappointed, a lot of people not even really hyped to summon for these guys. I think a lot of it sometimes as well back then, because obviously we weren't synced yet, was we saw stuff that was going to be coming out later. So of course JP would have gotten releases in all the following months after April, and then we get to November, these guys come out on Global, but we've already seen stuff that's going to be coming out in a couple of months time thanks to JP, and some of that stuff was just better and more hype than these guys, right? So I remember these guys were not that hype of a release on Global, but let me know if you were playing JP around the time these guys came out, if you remember, and how you felt about them when they came out on JP. And then, of course, we got the next year, and I don't know how actually true that this is, because it was all basically credited to Koto, who'd taken over as the producer for the global side, but we finally got in 2021. This is when Golden Week first became a same time celebration. So in 2021, for the very first time, Golden Week was on Global and JP at the same time, and we got the release of the GT Super Saiyans, the Physical Goku, and the Int Vegeta. And this is one of those things where this was like a big W for Global and for Global players, because these guys on release like probably were just the 2 best TURs in the game, and so the fact that they came out at the same time was obviously very, very good. And then we had, like, the funny thing is, because it was in April, remember, for Global, everything else was still behind. We weren't synced yet. So when the anniversary content came out in July, it was one of those things where you could then use a GT Heroes team with a mix of either Vegeta family or Goku family, right? Depending on who you used as the leader. I believe it was the 6th anniversary, right? Because then the big event was like the gods, the gathering of the gods of destruction. And that event, when it came out on JP, this would kind of start a trend for these next couple of years, where Global would get a bunch of this content before we got the anniversary. So then when the difficult anniversary content came out on Global, it would be significantly easier, because we started getting all these units like Golden Week, then Saiyan Day becoming a same time celebration. We would start getting all these characters that were not available on JP when the anniversary content dropped, and it made the anniversary content significantly easier. So these guys came out 2021, very, very good. This celebration in general was very, very good. I believe, was it this celebration that ended with like the surprise EZA for the STR Super Saiyan 4 Goku and AGL Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta? Because yeah, the LRs were like a surprise EZA at the end of an anniversary, I think, right? But it was this one where the TURs EZA'd. But this celebration was just really good, and obviously really hyped for Global, because it was the first time Golden Week was on Global at the same time as JP. So then we moved into 2022, and this is where we saw the release of STR Goku, Gohan, and AGL Cell, who of course have only just gotten their EZAs now. And these guys on release were obviously very good as well. Their teams were very good, and this was another big case for Global, because of course we are now, if you see the difference when we go back to these guys, we were getting these category 170 leads. This is where we moved into getting the 200% leaders. And for Global, Saiyan Day, which obviously happened in March, we got the Majin Vegeta. Then we got these 2 guys for Golden Week, and then Ginyu came out right before the anniversary, And so when Global went into the 7th anniversary, which was of course on JP, the introduction of 200% leaders with the LR Gods and the LR Super Saiyan 4s, Global already had 4 200% leaders. So like this team was really, really good for tearing through the red zone. Cell was good, but his team wasn't as great like at the time on release, just because of some of the other units that were available. But this team with Super Saiyans or Goku family as a lead, like this team was really, really good. And just absolutely helped so much with the anniversary content. So this was another very, very good Golden Week. I guess we could have talked about like the part 2 LRs, because I'm not sure how early on down the line the celebrations started having part 2 LRs. But this one also had the what if, like Goku and Gohan Father Son Kamehameha thing, which was really cool. I really like that unit. Hopefully they get an EZA soon as well. But yeah, 2022 Golden Week was definitely very good as well. Then we move on to 2023, and this is the one, this one's very controversial in the fan base, because for some reason, whatever it is, right, there's a lot of people like OG Dragon Ball doesn't get a huge amount of representation in Dokkan, and it doesn't get a huge amount of love in the community. There's like a small corner of the community that loves DB Saga, always wants DB Saga buffs and is always excited when we get them. And then there's that part of the community that anytime anything DB Saga related comes out, all they do is complain. And I remember this is one of those times where there was obviously a lot more games out at this point, like the gacha market has like massively expanded. And this was one of the first times in a few years where Golden Week didn't hit top grossing. And a lot of people used that to try and complain that it's like, oh, see, OG Dragon Ball's not hype. We didn't hit top grossing. But the funny thing is, obviously top grossing is not a measure of how much money a game is making in as much as it is a measure of how much it's making compared to other games. So other games, whether it was like some of the Pokemon games, or there was that horse racing one on JP that was out that got insanely popular. Another game getting top grossing doesn't mean that Dokkan isn't making a ton of money. And the funniest thing is, even though this Golden Week did not hit top grossing with Goku and the Piccolo Jr., it actually made more money than the 2 previous Golden Weeks, right? So for everyone saying that, like, you know, this OG Dragon Ball stuff isn't hype, it doesn't, like, it's not good for the game, like, the Goku and Piccolo releasing made more money than the Goku, Gohan, and Cell and the GT Super Saiyans. So it is what it is. Like, you know, OG Dragon Ball is where the story started. I do feel like it should get its fair share of representation in the game, but the good thing is these units were very, very good. And of course Piccolo became the ultimate World Tournament destroyer card, which he still is to this day. I mean, unless they release another character that just has a instantly use on turn 1 AoE like active skill, he will continue to be the best World Tournament unit in the game, right? So this Golden Week was very, very good. And of course the part 2 LR for this Golden Week was the STR Bulma, who was one of the very few times that a yellow coin would release throughout the history of Dokkan and just come out and straight up be like the best unit in the game, basically, right? So this Golden Week was definitely very successful, even though it didn't hit top grossing. With the, I guess technically it's not even OG because it's not DB Saga, but it is OG Dragon Ball. It's so weird that they don't count that very final like arc, because obviously on JP the actual translation for DB Saga is Boyhood Saga, so it's only the time when it's Kid Goku. And as soon as we get to this last part with the 23rd World Tournament where he's now grown up, like that doesn't count as the Boyhood Saga, but there is no Saga category for it in the game, so they're not on DB Saga, but then they're not on, obviously not on Saiyan Saga. They're just kind of stuck in this gap in the middle. But Goku was really, really good. Obviously Chance to guard was a bit awkward, but once you got his or an ally's revival off and he had the permanent guard, he could be really good. And Piccolo outside of the World Tournament was really good for a very long time. It's only now that he's kind of aged out that he is basically just a World Tournament card. And then that brings us to last year, which was the AGL Super Sentai Angel Goku and the Int Fat Buu. I mean, these two units are both still somewhat usable now in difficult content. Super Sentai Angel Goku only really early on, because obviously he loses his damage reduction as the event goes on. But in short events like Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, especially considering you can stun in a lot of the first phases, like he can still be really, really valuable. And this guy has some crazy shenanigans because of his revival and then having the Ghost Usher ability. Like I still see people doing challenge runs in like new content that's come out you know, the most recent content, using this guy on the team, even with no leader skill, because you can have him in slot 3 on his first appearance. He gets instantly killed. You revive, then he doesn't come back for like 3 turns, and then on that turn you have a Ghost Usher, you float him off again, he's not going to be back again. Like, if he was on turn 1, he comes back on turn 4, then he comes back on turn 7, and by then you've potentially either won the event, or you have another unit on the team that has like a target ability or something. Yeah, so this guy, crazy shenanigans. But the interesting thing is, the thing that to get the most excited about Golden Week for this year, whatever the theme may be, is that when we look back, we have these 2 guys last year. They came out and were basically the 2 best TURs in the game. Then 2023 Golden Week, you had the Goku and the Piccolo Jr. were basically the 2 best TURs in the game. These guys, I'm not sure, were they at that level at the time? They were probably at least top 5 if they weren't necessarily considered the best. And then when these guys came out, they were basically the best TURs in the game. So for the last few years, ever since Golden Week has been a same time celebration, these units have pretty much come out straight out of the gate as being like the 2 new best units or best TURs in the game. So definitely very, very excited to see what Golden Week is going to bring for this year. I know a lot of people really want to see Daima. I'll do some more videos about Golden Week. Obviously, like I say, we're going to talk about when we could first see the first hints based on the last couple of years, and also we'll do a video talking about the different themes. So let me know what you want to see as the theme for Golden Week this year. And like I say, I know Daima is a very popular option, but there's a whole bunch of different things it could be. We, of course, get a lot of new units, because not only do we get the Dual Dokkan Fest, they both have banner units. Then we get a Part 2 LR. So there's going to be lots of stuff going on once the Golden Week celebration actually starts. So yeah, let me know what you guys want to see down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been The Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.